We just got our first official trailer for the Blood of My Blood Outlander prequel series, so let's talk about it. I'd normally say this will have spoilers for the books, but there are no books about these two couples yet, so I will say spoilers if you haven't yet seen the trailer. We open the trailer with this shot of Claire's mother, Julia, who is standing in front of these letters and baskets that are labeled for the Western Front. And behind her, you can see that it is all women working in this space, in this room. I had made a video earlier talking about my Outlander headcanons and predictions for Claire's parents, since nothing had been written about them and the types of professions or people that they might be. And I had said that I had thought that Julia would have taken up a job during the war and in the women's movement. So it does look like that is the case in this scene. Julia Morriston, later Beauchamp, is being played by an actress named Hermione Corfield. And what we know of Julia is that she was born in England in 1891 and is described as having light brown hair and eyes. And she passed away at age 31 in 1923, presumably in a car accident with her husband, Henry. Now we get a shot of Henry here. He is going to be played by the actor Jeremy Irvine, and we can see him here on the front lines with a voiceover saying, "I've decided to call you my hope." And I think it's likely that these two met before he went off to war and are now dreaming of the day when they'll be reunited with one another. And Henry's one hope in the midst of this war and all the traumas of war is to be reunited with Julia once again. Now, Henry Beauchamp, Claire's father, was born in England to his parents, David and Angela, and his full name is Henry Montmorency Beauchamp, and Montmorency in French means cherry. It's also associated with a very lofty, wealthy family in France, so that's a name that commands a lot of respect. I couldn't find Henry's exact birth date, but he also presumably dies in 1923 with Julia in a car accident. And he had a brother, Quentin Lambert Beauchamp, who we learned in Outlander raised Claire after her parents passed away in that accident and was referred to as her Uncle Lamb. He was born in 1865 and he died in 1741 at the age of 75. Now we see this shot of Julia looking out this window at these fighter pilots and planes flying overhead, and she does have a smock on of some sort, so I'm curious if they're choosing to make her a nurse or why she would be wearing this smock, because it does seem like she's working in, that first shot with all the letters, so I'm curious what her profession will actually end up being here. And then we get this up-close shot of a pocket watch and hands trying to fix the gears in the back of it. And the fingernails look slightly longer, so I think that this might be Julia handling this and fixing it. And then the clock begins to start ticking once she or he fixes the gears in the back. And that's a nice call to the time travel aspect of this show. Then we get our first of the title cards, which says on it, 2 love stories, just to remind us again that we are going to see Jamie's parents in this show as well, which segues into our first shot here of Ellen Mackenzie peering through these birch trees that look like they might be stacked up against a barn of some sort. And Ellen Mackenzie is someone who we do know a little bit about based on the book lore and in the book series, and she's being played by Harriet Slater in the show. Now, Ellen's full name is Ellen Katrina Silas Mackenzie Fraser, and she was born in 1691 and described as being a tall, fair-skinned, gray-eyed, red-headed woman. She is the daughter of Jacob and Anne Mackenzie, the sister of Colum and Dougal, who we know from Outlander. She's also the sister of Janet and Flora, both of which are deceased, and Jocasta Cameron, who we got to see in Outlander as well. We also know that Ellen dies in childbirth with their son Robert in 1729 at the age of 39 years old. Now across from her, we get our first shot at Jamie Roy, who is playing Brian Fraser in the series. Brian Robert David Fraser was born in 1691 as well, and in the books he is described as tall, with dark hair and dark hazel-colored eyes, and his father is Simon Fraser, Lord Lovat, who we met in season 2. Now, he is a bastard son of Lord Lovitz with a woman named Davina Porter. Fun fact, Davina Porter is the name of the woman who narrates all of the Outlander books for the series, and so that was a nice little nod to her that Diana Gabaldon wrote into the book series. Brian has two half-brothers. One of them is Simon, the master of Lovett, who we also meet in season 2 of Outlander. And they also have another half-brother named Alexander, who was also a bastard son, and he becomes an abbot in France. So Brian, as we know, also dies shortly before the events of Outlander in October of 1740, and he was aged 49. Then we get this title card saying Connected by Time, which again is a nod to how these two stories and these couples are connected by Jamie and Claire's love that spans across time itself. And then we hear the gunshots and the explosions as we're getting a sneak peek into this bunker in the middle of the war. And I thought this was beautifully shot. I think the color grading of this trailer and hopefully the whole show is nice and bright, especially in contrast to the later seasons of Outlander, which were very, very dark. And I think this is a beautiful color grading that they've chosen for this show. After that, we see a very scared looking Julia hiding underneath a table. She is still wearing the same outfit that we saw earlier in the trailer when she's watching the fighter pilots go by. So I feel like this must be taking place probably during a raid of some sort, and she's hiding beneath the table there. Then we see this crack or knob of wood in a doorway with an eye staring through. The eye is blue, so I almost think this is Ellen Fraser or maybe somebody else in the show that is witnessing something they shouldn't be seeing, because they do look a little spooked a bit. Then here we get the word loyalty as we look on at all of these Highlander men, and it looks like they might be preparing for a battle or a fight against a neighboring clan of some sort, but I love how reminiscent of season 1 this all looks, including the costume. It's beautiful. Then we get this shot here where it says Desire. This is a shot of Ellen and Brian again, and they have their interlocked hands. It reminds me a lot of the promotional images that they had of Jamie and Claire early on in their marriage when they're up on the heather in episode 8 of season 1. Then we get this shot which says Passion, and again I really think they're trying to capitalize on Ellen and Brian's love story being so similar to Jamie and Claire's, because a lot of their shots are framed very similarly and you can tell that it's a very similar vibe. Lastly, the word destiny is placed in front of this shot of a carriage riding up to a very grand estate. And then we get confirmation that this is coming this summer. No date, but I would assume this is probably going to happen in the later half of the summer, but we'll have to wait and see. Then we get this shot of two men riding on horseback up to this castle. This looks like the backside of Castle Leoch. Or possibly another castle, but I've been to the shooting location that they used for Castle Leoch, so if it is that, they've definitely CGI'd a lot of the background out here if it is. Then we get this up close shot of Brian in a very similar outfit that we saw Jamie wear in a lot of season 1. I really think this is a great casting. He looks really great as Brian in everything I've seen so far. He's clearly in a horse barn, and it looks like he might be talking to Ellen here because there's just the slightest hint of red in this person's hair. Then we finally get a full-on face shot of Ellen here, and you can see her looking at Brian with this kind of mild look of concern or possibly longing here, and I also really love how much taller he is than her. We get this quick shot of a hand passing over these blades of grasses in this field, which remind me of the Outlander series opening credits, where we get a close-up shot of Claire's legs as she's running. Then we get this shot of a letter that Julia sends to Henry, and it explains on here his rank. We can see that he was a lieutenant in the 99th Regiment, 5th Battalion, which was originally meant to be a home defense, but they were later deployed to France. If you look closely, there's like the littlest bit of lipstick on this little letter here, and we see Henry kissing that spot. And then this quick shot to Julia kissing the same letter as well. We end the trailer with this shot of Henry and Julia in their more modern clothes, and he says, "Without you, I am adrift." And it might be a voiceover of him reading a letter or her reading his letter to her, but this shot looks like it was right before they separate and he is sent off to war. I love this casting. She looks so much like Claire here, especially with her hairstyle that they've given her, and I think that helps with making the connection between Outlander and this series. They're also standing in a cityscape, so I think this is probably in London before Henry leaves. I, for one, am really excited after seeing this promo, how it's shot, the color grading, it looks wonderful. So let me know what your favorite part of the trailer was and what you're looking forward to the most.